Hello. Today we'll be talking about protecting healthcare critical infrastructure by way of an all-hazard risk management framework developed to identify, escalate, and mitigate global threats. We'll begin with understanding the problem and risk, thinking about the ethical theories and social principles, what global and legal frameworks are available, and then considering counter-arguments to ensure we build a robust framework. Healthcare systems face unprecedented threats affecting patient care and safety. In healthcare, patients depend on continuous care ranging from ICU life support to routine treatment. Interruptions can result in injury or death. Critical infrastructure in healthcare is very complex because it includes a huge diversity of considerations from IT systems, physical facilities, power, water, and supplies. The categories of threats against healthcare we will consider include cyber attack, natural disaster, and geopolitical issues. When did cyber attacks really start being a problem for healthcare? Well, in 2009, with the passage of the HIPAA High-Tech Act, hospitals now had monetary incentives to go digital. By 2014, the hacktivist group Anonymous launched a DDoS attack against Boston Children's. Since then, the number of attacks have skyrocketed, especially with the advent of phishing and ransomware. One of the most notable attacks was the WannaCry ransomware, affecting 200,000 systems globally in 150 countries. WannaCry had huge consequences in America and the British health system. Of important mention, with the 206 data breaches last year, including one of the most massive data compromises in healthcare with Change Health. This breach paralyzed segments of care, especially the ability of patients to fill prescriptions. Natural disasters have serious impact against healthcare. These include instances of hurricanes, floods, or tornadoes, to name a few. When there is a loss of power and running water, as in the case of Hurricane Helene last year, hospitals were unable to wash linens or sanitize instrumentation, clearly a grave issue. Pandemics are also a factor, as in the case of COVID-19 when the world shut down businesses and factories and supplies became scarce. When considering geopolitical risk from a cyber perspective, state-sponsored attacks from Russia, China, Iran, North Korea are prevalent. From a kinetic perspective, hospitals become damaged or destroyed in the midst of war. When determining how to protect healthcare, ethical considerations are paramount. The theories that I have identified as important include deontological and utilitarian, and also from a social vulnerability perspective, social justice principles. Under normal hospital operations in medicine, it typically operates under deontological. There are 4 guiding principles. The first is autonomy, which relates to patient choice. Secondly, non-maleficence, which most people are very familiar with, do no harm. Also, beneficence, the act in the patient's best interest, and justice, related to fair treatment. Of these 4 principles, under normal operations, autonomy typically emerges as the decisive principle. Now, during a disaster, there's a need to shift on this approach toward utilitarian, which means that they maximize overall benefit for the greatest number of people. This ensures ethical rationing by providing scarce resources to those that will benefit the most. Sometimes there can be quite a deviation between the 2 ethical theories, and this is where social justice principles along with utilitarian are a good fit. Social justice strives to provide a person, no matter what category they belong to, with equitable access to healthcare. And this is a key ingredient in keeping the system in balance for the benefit of everyone. So now let's consider the global landscape and legal frameworks available today. The European Union adopts a top-down compulsory approach to ensuring resiliency across the 18 sectors, and healthcare obviously is one of those. The NIS2 directive requires sectors to adhere to a strict risk management and reporting requirement. By contrast, the United States follows a bottom-up, sector-specific approach. In healthcare, we have the HIPAA regulation requiring protection of patient data. Supported laws include the Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act, or CIRCA, expected to be enforced by next year, emphasizes voluntary adherence to the NIST framework across 16 critical infrastructure. The U.S. relies on a decentralized system and financial incentives for compliance. The U.S. and EU have established cyber dialogue and agreed to cooperate in areas of critical infrastructure. Since 2021, both countries have been collaborating via the Trade and Technology Council, which was established at the US-EU summit in Brussels that year. Important arguments against an all-hazard approach include the fact that small hospitals just can't afford it, and statistics show that over 130 rural hospitals have closed since 2010 due to economic hardship, and when hospitals close, mortality rates increase. There's also concerns about privacy, data jurisdiction, and sovereignty. And as I said before, in the US, we have HIPAA, which sets requirements for privacy and security of patient information, but that, of course, doesn't apply overseas. Now, the reality is, to address these concerns, the statistics you see here on the screen speak overwhelming volumes. By having government funding, lives will be saved and money will be saved, an estimated $5.6 billion. The Change Health breach alone that happened February of 2024 last year is expected to cost $874 million. Most importantly, ethically, we have a duty to protect life and safety, and so the right approach should be implemented. So, what does an all-hazard risk management framework look like? Well, it means covering every possible threat that poses a risk to healthcare. All of the pieces that you see here on the screen are components of it. It's important to note that each piece has a litany of countless considerations, but today we'll only be able to go over brief highlights. These are all complementary to achieving HIPAA compliance. Let's start with the HHS Cybersecurity Performance Goals, which provides a structured approach to enhancing cyber posture. We also have the NIST framework, which provides guidelines and best practices. And it's also really important to have organizations with a multidisciplinary team to cover people, process, and technology, as well as ethical and legal considerations. Deploying a zero trust architecture reduces a multitude of risks technically, and having procedures and technologies to deal and manage non-traditional assets such as IoT and IoMT is really very important. Training programs, not only for IT, but everyone else, non-IT staff, is essential for empowering users to build security awareness. And in addition, a SOC with an early detection capabilities for identifying and responding to threats is really critical. I think most importantly, though, collaboration and strategic partnerships are paramount with both local, federal agencies, but also the bigger picture, nation to nation. Ultimately, our goal is to achieve zero downtime operations. And so this goal requires resilient systems, comprehensive planning, and collaborative efforts. Addressing the escalating threats to healthcare infrastructure requires a multifaceted approach that combines ethical considerations, legal frameworks, and advanced technical solutions. It is imperative that government support is directed towards vulnerable communities, as ensuring that all healthcare organizations can maintain continuous care, especially in critical situations. Thank you for joining me to explore an all-hazard risk management framework for protecting healthcare critical infrastructure. Goodbye.